Now, as you guys know, Opus 4.7 changed with a new effort level called extra high. And to me, I'm not really sure when I should use extra high versus max versus high for a task. And I want to kind of experiment with how well it could basically use the max effort level to refactor an old project that I had that's written in Next.js, and it's using TRPC. This one's pretty old. I think I made this like 2 or 3 years ago, and I want to try to transition it all to be in TanStack Start. I will say this is in production. There's actually users in my database, and we have like 250,000 of icons that have been generated. This is not fake data. This is real. So I want to make sure that everything that's done with this refactoring doesn't actually break production. Now, I will say when it comes to effort levels, they do have this documentation inside the Claude Code docs, and they do recommend that for any coding or agentic work, you use extra high. That's like the default with Claude Code when you load it up, I believe. But there are some reasons why you might want to drop down to low or medium if you just want to ask a quick question, or if you want to do a giant frontier problem, whatever that means. That's when you kick off to max. But you also want to kick off max when your evals show measurable headroom at extra high. Whatever the hell that means, that's when you want to switch to extra high. But since I don't know, they don't explain what evals is. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead and run Claude with this dangerously skip permissions, but I'm going to set the max tokens to 64,000 because they also tell you that in the documentation that when you're running Claude Code Opus at extra high or max, you should probably set your max tokens, and 64,000 tokens is some reasonable default. I don't know what any of this stuff means, and they don't really explain this stuff, or like, I don't know why I have to set this, but we're going to set it anyway. But going back to the refactoring that we're trying to do, let's just go ahead and make sure we're on the highest max effort. And then I'm going to go back and grab a prompt that I had set up in Cursor, and we're going to go ahead and just drop it in here. Now, I'm not going to run a plan mode. I want to see how this is able to just take my prompt and what it's going to do with that prompt. So let's just go ahead and kick this off, and let's just see. What I've seen with lower effort levels, if the task is too hard, it will just ask you, hey, like you need to just run this in a higher effort level because it won't be able to do it. But if we're starting with max from the get-go, I'm wondering if it's going to be able to basically just one-shot it, you know? But I think it will start asking some clarifying questions because most of these harnesses will kind of force that on users because users don't know really what they want. So I don't think I actually read the prompt. Let me read this prompt to you guys. Create a new work tree. I want you to refactor away from Next.js and instead use the latest version of TanStack Start. Please try to keep the TRPC stuff in place if possible without needing to upgrade everything. Make no mistakes. Okay, so a really basic prompt. And again, I'm pretty certain that it's going to kick me in the plan mode in a second and ask me a bunch of questions. I will also say that we are currently at 30% used, and I'm on the max 5x plan. So I have a feeling that we're going to probably hit the limit of this session. But luckily, our session resets in 32 minutes, so we can kind of get a fresh, full experiment of how many tokens this may use. All right, so it seems like the plan is done, and you can kind of scroll through here. It took about 28 minutes to run. The next steps is, can we actually run this thing locally? So I'm going to just go ahead and run the web service. And it looks like we're getting a decent amount of errors. Cannot find config TS node, stuff like this. So I would honestly just copy all this, paste it in, just tell it to fix it. Looks like the issue was Vite was trying to include a nested directory package I have. I have like a background removal process project. So let's just ignore that, see if it works now. All right, no errors in the console, that's good. Load up the app, and it looks like we still get some issues here. Go ahead and grab this one. It looks like it's having an issue with like React use. I wonder if maybe like it just needs to be updated. And it looks like this issue is with React use. I guess you can't run it on the server because the way TanStack Start works is it does like a server-side rendering pass, but this one won't work on it. So you do have to kind of exclude it to say do not allow the server-side rendering to conclude this one. So again, we'll just keep on doing this approach until it works. And by the way, I forgot to show you guys, but from that initial plan, we went from 30% used to 63% used, and it ran for 28 minutes. So that's about 1/3 of all of my 5-hour session credits. So you can probably do 3 max requests on a giant refactoring like that. Like I could probably kick off another one to move off of Prisma and use Drizzle. And then I could probably do another one that move off of TRPC and just use the built-in TanStack Start approach to things. But I think one thing that can help achieve a successful refactoring is to like keep it a very narrow refactoring. Don't ask for too much. Getting off of Next.js to TanStack Start was probably a lot to chew off for these models. DB container isn't running, so that's kind of why it's crashing. I think there's some other things that were maybe messed up. Like let's see why it's changing this stuff. It looks like it's making some progress here. It says they got 200 status codes back, so we can go to the UI and just do a refresh. And yeah, now it's working. Hopefully this is good. I mean, we can try clicking around and like log it in and stuff and see if this will even let us log in. All right, looks like everything finished up. It says it hit a bunch of different pages and it looks like it's still working. So we can try to go back to the app and just like verify does actually load. These pages seem like they're good. Down at the bottom, we got like the privacy terms of service. Let's do sign in. There is a little error with sign in. I'm going to go ahead and just paste this one in. So at this point, I'm going to change the effort level back to something a little bit lower. I think max is honestly a little too high for this. I might do like X high. I get this error when I try to click sign in. I'm guessing BetterAuth has a different API callback endpoint, but can you just double check to see what the issue might be? Could be that, or it could be that BetterAuth has a different schema that I need to apply versus what Next.auth was using. It looks like the issue was with Auth.js. I don't remember if I told it to refactor away from Auth.js or just keep it. It's probably better if I told it not to. So I was using Next.auth. I think Auth.js maybe has more support for different providers, and TanStack Start could be one of those. All right, looks like we're able to sign in. I'm going to try generating an icon here. I got to go to my users, and I think the tokens are here. So I'll give it like 100 credits here. I'll save that, and then I'm going to refresh. An angry chicken. I'll see if it can generate an angry chicken. I think this is using Nana Banana behind the scenes, and I want to come back and do like a whole redesign of this whole app. It's still looking kind of childish and not very professional. And I think using Claude Design could take it to that next level and make it better. But overall, I mean, this project kind of feels like it's dead. I mean, like, although I do have a bunch of user accounts, not many people are generating images anymore because there's a bunch of services that do that already, right? You can just generate stuff directly in Nana Banana. You don't have to use something like what I'm using. Yeah, I don't think this is working. It looks like it's just like getting stuck. And what I could do to debug is, let's go back to my database and I'm going to go to generation jobs. We do have a generation job and it's kind of stuck on processing. So I'm going to say, I'm able to log in now. I tried to generate a icon, but it seems like it's just stuck. I verified it was able to create a generation job, but it's stuck on processing. And it should be able to look at the logs of the service and like debug what might be going on. Oh, it did fail. Let's see. Specify bucket does not exist. I'm going to stop this. I got more information. It looks like we got a specify bucket does not exist error. That should have been created when we do a Docker Compose up. We do not run the Docker Compose up to spin up the local S3 service. All right, it looks like there was a port mix match. I'm not sure how this happened. Maybe at some point I changed the ports. I know 5000, I believe, is like a reserved thing on Mac for like air receiver for playing your like music. Oh, wow, then it's working. All right, we got our chicken. Can we download it? We can. Very cool. Let's go to my creations. All right, I went ahead and told it to make a branch and, make a pull request for these changes so I can kind of review all the code. But there are some things I want to kind of double check. Like, for example, right now, the Docker file was very specific to Next.js. And to get TanStack Start deployed, there's a little bit of configuration you have to do with setting up Nitro and some other stuff with the Docker file. So I have a feeling this won't work when I try to deploy it to Railway. And so what I would like to do is, and probably not in this video, but I'm probably going to make a staging environment. So I'm going to have like a staging environment where I can hook this to a separate branch to verify I can get this all deployed out. And then if everything's good, I'll just go ahead and merge it in the main and we'll have a fully deployed TanStack Start app, which I didn't have to refactor any of the code. The Max plan just did it all for me, which is pretty great. All right, there we have it. We have a pull request with 103 file changes, and we're able to get it running locally. I'm still not convinced that the code's good. I'd be very cautious about merging this into main and potentially breaking the app for any of my users at this point. At this point, what I would probably do is kick off a couple of additional reviews, right? I definitely want a security review because it did update my Next.auth to like Auth.js version 5, and it may have changed some of my tRPC middlewares. And so I'd probably be like, can you please do a deep security analysis on the changed code, compare my branch against main, and look through the tRPC and the auth related changes to make sure that there's no potential missing middleware or security issues that happen during this refactoring that leaves API endpoints fully exposed. This is probably a good thing. You could probably keep it on extra high. Kick that one off as well. But overall, I mean, that's the main thing I'd probably be concerned about. And then we'll have to come back through. And I do want to do a refactoring to get off of tRPC. I want to do a refactoring to get off of Prisma and MySQL and just convert it to Postgres, because that's just basically my stack now. All my projects use Postgres, MySQL, and stack start. And it's just nicer if I open up a project and it's in the exact same stack that I'm used to. Another thing I would probably recommend doing, I'm going to go ahead and just kick off another extra high effort over here. Can you double check the changes and compare them against the main branch? I want you to make sure that when I deploy this to production, there's not going to be any gotchas with the recent changes to Auth.js version 5 with how the database schema works. I want everything to work exactly how it did before. I shouldn't have to run any migration scripts. I just want to confirm that, do a double check on all that logic. So something like that. Again, it's like a little bit more focused in on like checking for potentially breaking changes when I deploy to prod. And then we have a full security audit over here on the left. Those are the two main things I'd probably do with this refactoring. Now, like I mentioned, all this stuff is hosted on Railway, and what I would probably do at this point is clone the MySQL database and also clone this website deployment, and then have basically a staging environment with a separate database from a copy of MySQL, a copy of the application pointing to this new branch that I made, get it deployed out there, verify it works, and then I'd be more confident of like, okay, if I get this deployed to prod, I'm pretty sure everything will be fine. But I'm not going to dive down into that workflow in this video. I think I kind of did enough. I just wanted to kind of stress test the ability of the max effort to do a full refactoring of Next.js to tan stack start, and it did a pretty good job. So yeah, let me know in the comments if there's any other cool things you want me to experiment with. Other than that, have a good day. Happy prompting.